Ladies and gentlemen, in Australia, Sky News has a wonderful episode called Lefties Gone Bat Bleep Crazy. And, ladies and gentlemen, it just seems that that's exactly the story that goes on in the United States with the left. Because it just amazes me just to see how many more times the left continues to act like that petulant child that you didn't want to ever have. And you turn to your spouse and you go, seemed like a good idea at the time. But it just amazes me how again and again they could do things and get away with it. And somehow the spin is okay. And if you're thinking, what am I talking about? Guys, it goes from James Comey to President Biden on how the left continues to play games. Welcome back to the Rant Network, everyone. I am David Solomon. That guy next to me, well, that's Stuart Brisgell. And what we've been doing for the last number of years is really simple. It's called the Rant Network, where we are unedited, uncensored, unfiltered, and unapologetic on so many topics, from politics to the absurdity of modern life. Folks, what we try to do here, simple. It's our opinions. We're not a media house, although sometimes we're much a little more factual than they are. But we do talk about the quirks of modern life, and we're all about expressing ours and your opinions. So sit back once again as we dive into how the left continues to be all wrong. Stuart, last week, two stories popped up on and it just amazed me. Number one was James Comey putting on his X account 8647. And he said, "Oh, I didn't really know what 86 kind of meant. I thought it was just a cool shell formation." Of course, the right accused him of wanting to assassinate the president. The left said, "Come on, don't be so silly." Of course, because when the left calls for it, that's okay. There is no absurdity in what they do. But then, excuse me, the revelation over the weekend, Stuart, that we've been lied to, that Joe Biden was in the Oval Office. There was no way he was coherent. Now, my sincere emotions and prayers are to the former president after being diagnosed with an advanced form of prostate cancer. I'm not here to mock him. The opposite. My sympathies. Nobody should suffer like that. But the American population suffered because the left decided that they knew better. The elitists once again emerged. Stuart, I don't understand. Once again, I'm seeing this the lefties gone bat bleep crazy. What say you, my friend?
Well, let's start by saying, if someone blows gas in a room and dusts it, chances are who smelt it dealt it. Sound familiar from the nursery rhymes when we were kids in school? The Democratic has a party of dusting the room, and their stinking stench is literally vitriol. You're right. From 86ing a president of the United States, which everyone knows what 86 means. And if you don't know what 86 means,
look it up.
You're in the minority, because most of our generation, which is the large extent of the population, David, believe it or not, is we grew up watching mafia films, murder films, and all kinds of stuff through the 80s, where 86 was all over them. I guess you can Google, David, while I'm on here, how many movies have 86 in it. But what I also want to continue, yes, you don't want that in your search history. But what I also want to bring to your attention is there's this old fart running around on private planes with this young communist named AOC and Bernie Sanders screaming out, "Oligarch, oligarch, oligarch." And you know what? We've come to learn that he is an oligarch. He is the definition of a political oligarch in this country. And his grip on power is one in which he never wants to give up till the day that he dies. Sounds kind of familiar. Sounds kind of like Joe Biden. But, the politicians hold on to their political positions not to help you, the people. You would think that the politician's job is to help the people. That's how this Constitution and Senate and Congress were designed. People from all over the United States coming together to bring the problems from their small corner of the world. However, it's become a profit center. These are mostly attorneys that go to school and recognize that they suck as attorneys and do better as being blood sucking Americans and sucking the blood out of each and every one of us, making us believe that what they are doing is altruistic in the best interest of the country. Kind of like Comey did, standing out on stage with a teasing type of hour-long press release. You know, it's really about time that the Republican Party just proceed with charges against all of them and never stop, because they clearly want to charge the right wherever given the opportunity. They are in a constant attack mode, and the Republicans have been in constant defense mode. That's really what it is. And, when you are in battle in court, if you're always in defense mode, you never seem to get a leg up. And the Republicans just sort of fall on their religious sword, bless his heart, and let's just forget about it. It's not worth our time. Kind of sounds like our grandmothers used to tell us when we were growing up, when a kid got in our face and did something silly or stupid. And instead of going out and knocking his four front teeth out, as they teach you in hockey, and as most Canadians grew up, even if they couldn't play hockey, they tried to, and it's still people's teeth got knocked out. But in the political arena, it's more sad because you got to be politically correct. I can't call you names, but you want to know something? My handcuffs are off today. AOC, you're a fucking retard. You're an anti-Semite who belongs under a rock. Talib, you're a racist. Go back to the country in which you want to stand, and I'm going to watch you get stoned to death, because that's what will happen to you there. David, these people, Bernie Sanders, go move next to Putin. He's your cousin. I think you'll do well. These people like you to believe that we would be better off if we were like these countries. I really would like to argue that. And that's not the mission of this rant today. This mission of this rant today is how they constantly just lie. And that's it. They call the other party names, and then they cry about it when they get called names. David, it looks like you're sitting on your hands and you want to say something. And I've been ranting for 7.5 minutes, so I'm going to chill my jets. David?
No, I just find some of your statements as usual, whatever. But let's put some. We've talked about Bernie Sanders and AOC with their hypocrisy, flying on private planes and saying, well, it's better than flying on a rail plane. God forbid you should do that. And yelling oligarch, oligarch, oligarch. You hear the Speaker of the House, Speaker Johnson saying, it's time to cut out all of this insider trading business. And who's the one yelling the most? The left. Boat hits the Brooklyn Bridge from Mexico. Yep. What does Chuck Schumer do? Blames Donald Trump. It's this ongoing silliness. And then you've got these Democrats who decide to call for impeachment, articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. It's just the smoke to divert you. And what's fascinating, what was not getting enough legs, is Stuart, Jake Tapper has a new book coming out.
Oh, yes.
And Jake Tapper's book apparently is going against his own network. And I want to see if Jake Tapper has a job when this is all said and done, because essentially the 2024 year was a full cover-up. And Tapper claims that the White House lied. Now, come on. If you sat with Joe Biden, and these guys sort of did, how could you tell me you didn't know? Okay? Please. Again, I called him one point Jim Henson's Muppets because someone in the background was pulling strings, and you think it's Jill. For me, I think there's a scandal here. And again, I've said this in previous rants, so I'm repeating myself. I think there's a massive scandal that for the last 3+ years, someone, not Joe Biden, ran the White House. But again, don't you dare talk about the left. Stuart, I'm going to sidetrack a little bit. I'm going to tell you something. I don't believe right now. I think that the elitists in the United States are trying to pull the wool over the Americans' eyes, and the Americans are going F off. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because if you look at the polls that come out in different areas, right, when you really pull them right, and I'm not a poll person because you can get a poll that said the sky is green, but a lot of Americans are saying the opposite of what you're getting from the Democrats and from the media. Okay, a lot of Americans are like, we may not love what Donald Trump is doing, but this has been the most effective president in God knows how long. Plus, when you see every single time the Democrats change the subject very fast. Because yesterday it was RFK, and I say yesterday, it was a couple of weeks ago, they went after RFK and his idea about food coloring and poisoning the people, and they called him a lunatic. Suddenly they're not saying anything anymore. Elon Musk went back to run Tesla. Suddenly they're not saying anything anymore. Now, it's just incredible. Now, Bill Maher last week made some comments on both sides, and he's right that both Republicans and Democrats, they keep switching their messaging, and I get all that. But I'll tell you what, this is my extension of all this, and this is where I think that the people have to get, stop, just ignore the media, ignore the noise. Stuart, on the weekend in Europe was the annual Eurovision contest. Now, Eurovision brings together all of the European song from all of Europe, including Israel. Israel's not part of Europe, but Israel's not allowed to participate in anything in Asia because of the Arab boycott. So Israel joins Europe on all these things, whether it's soccer or music or whatever. And last year, the one who ran for Israel was vilified because she was from Israel. She went, if I remember correctly, she finished 6th. This year, the candidate was a survivor of the Nova Festival. This year, she put out a song of peace, that we will rise again. The costume she wore will look like Batman. It was in honor of the Bebas children. Everything to call for peace. Wouldn't you know, the elitist judges, of course, did not give her points, did not reward her what she deserved. But European country after European country, when the popular vote came out, the people voted for her. And it just shows you that the people are being squashed. Their voice in the United States, in Europe, are being squashed by these elitists in order to make sure that their message gets through. And by the way, a Spanish media house, before she performed, put a Free Palestine message on. She got the number 1 votes from Spain went to the Israeli singer. It just shows you the disparity and how the elitists are not listening to the people.
I agree. Look at Bruce Springsteen in London, England.
Exactly.
England has the most amount of restrictions next to countries like China over freedom of speech. Which is absolutely astonishing.
It's astonishing, except they're still getting away with a ton of hate.
If you post something inappropriate in England, they can arrest you.
They could, but they don't. They could, but they don't. Like, this is the problem, because the elitists now that are running it don't want you to arrest all these pro-terrorist people. They don't want to anybody who's against left, because it's a Labor government, and the Labor government there on the left wants to make sure that their message and only their message matters. Conservative messaging, everything else, that'll get shut down.
But you know what's amazing with this, David, is it's now they agree with, but what will they later? You see, this goes back to that Manchurian candidate, which, you know what, I think that over the next 2 years, we're going to find out how duplicit the government in the United States truly is. Remember, all these people sat and met with the big guy, but the big guy was an empty, hollow shell. So who really was the big? We talk about conspiracy theories. We talk about conspiracy theories all the time. Who killed JFK? Who killed Elvis?
Stuart, let me ask you a question. Okay, so Donald Trump ran on, said, if I was in the White House, Ukraine wouldn't have been attacked. Israel would not have been attacked. Think about that now. People call that just his bluster. But if you had a real president in the White House, forget Trump, if it was a real president in the White House, would we be in this situation? Would China have flown a balloon over the United States? Would the United States be in such chaos at the campus level? Would there be such divisive? And you got to say to yourself that for the last 3-4 years, you've had a void. So who filled the void? Those lefties, those anarchists, those hardcore socialists who wanted their way, ran your country. And now you're seeing Donald Trump trying to break this. There's no wonder he has to go at lightning speed to break this, because if he gets in 2026, if he loses one house, the Senate or whatever, he won't be able to fix what's been broken for the last 4 years. It's amazing if and when the files could be released from the White House. That would be one scary story because you had no one. You had a shell of a person as a president. And you're saying to me AOC and Bernie didn't help run the White House? And now they're yelling oligarch, oligarch. Stuart, think about it. Putin, Xi, Iran, North Korea, they all did what they did
Cuba,
because no one was home. Because no one was home. No one was home. Stuart, last word to you, my friend.
You know what my last word is? It's Monday, guys. We got a whole week more to catch up and blab all the stuff you missed. David?
All right, folks, let's have yourself a wonderful week. We'll catch you on the other side. Cheers.